It's the 86th Annual Academy Awards, and the Oscars were coming off another fairly stable year. The big winner the previous year was Argo, a film that was not favored to win Best Picture initially, but became a surprise frontrunner when Ben Affleck was snubbed for a nomination for Best Director. Once that happened, the movie steamrolled all the other major Guild Awards to an Oscar finish, with Ang Lee winning a well-deserved second Academy Award for Best Director for directing Life of Pi. Seth MacFarlane was a largely decent host, but drew controversy for his constant jabs at the nominees in the audience, as well as a satirical musical number about seeing many of the nominees' boobs in previous films, which did irk some viewers and, more importantly, audience members in the show the wrong way. Despite this controversy, Seth MacFarlane was asked to return as host, but he turned it down because he felt he did not have the time to commit to hosting a second round, and really wanted to do it once just to fulfill a lifelong dream. So the Academy turned to Ellen DeGeneres, a previous host who was free from controversy and normally turned in a fun show. And no, I'm not going to use a laughing clip. She really was free of controversy at the time. And considering one of the potential frontrunners for Best Picture, 12 Years a Slave, was also one of the more controversial nominees of the decade, it made sense to bring in a host who could find a way to bring humor to the situation.
Well, we should get started. It's going to be an exciting night. Anything can happen. So many different possibilities. Possibility number one, 12 Years a Slave wins Best Picture. Possibility number two, you're all racists.
Where there was little controversy was the Best Animated Feature category, which featured one drama in competition, but whose nominated films were mostly feel-good family films, the kind that make people feel better about themselves when watching on a bad day. What's more, most of the nominees received critical acclaim, making the outcome not so easy to predict. There were, of course, some movies that didn't get in, but the snubs were largely not of unique importance. Sony Animation tried to get into the race with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, but without Phil Lord and Chris Miller in the director chairs, the sequel felt largely flat with audiences and critics, so there was little chance of this getting in. Blue Sky Studios swung for the fences with Epic, a fantasy movie that received mixed reception. While critics and audiences were quick to note the lush and epic scale of the animation, many were quick to point out that the screenplay was rather simple for the images that were being projected on screen, and it felt more like a children's film than a true fantasy film. What would have made for a fascinating nomination would have been The Fake, a South Korean film that follows a small town who put their faith in a spiritual leader who ends up being a cult leader out to scam them out of their money. A blistering attack on cults that portray themselves as religions. The movie may have felt too extreme at the time, but this has definitely gotten better the more the world becomes aware of the dangers of cults, and this is certainly worth hunting down and viewing. Pixar failed to be nominated for Monsters University, a prequel to the Oscar-winning Monsters, Inc. While reception to the movie was good, it wasn't great, with many considering it a noticeable step down from the previous film, though the performances of Billy Crystal and John Goodman were praised. Another nomination that could have been interesting was Rio 2096, A Story of Love and Fury, a movie about a warrior who dies and witnesses 600 years of Brazil's history while trying to reunite with his true love. Complex and mature, the only reason I can think of why this wasn't in the lineup was because most Academy members have no emotional connection to the history of Brazil. Finally, DreamWorks' second movie of the year, Turbo, failed to get a nomination as well as gain much excitement from audiences, despite the presence of Ryan Reynolds, who wouldn't become the massive star he would become for a few more years. Oh, and for some reason, The Smurfs 2 was eligible for a nomination here, even though the first movie was disqualified for having too much live action in it, continuing the Academy's inconsistent policy of including movies with many live action elements in the Best Animated Feature category. So what did get in? DreamWorks Animation claimed the first nomination with The Croods, co-directed by Chris Sanders and Kirk D'Amico, The Croods was a sweet film that revolved around a prehistoric family who has to go on a journey despite the overprotective father's objections to leaving the cave. The movie starred Nicolas Cage and Emma Stone in the voice roles, and the movie proved to be a respectable hit with audiences and critics. Illumination finally could claim a spot in this category with Despicable Me 2, the sequel to the highly successful first film. This installment showed former villain Gru turning over a new leaf and finding love in the process. Considered to be a vast improvement from the first film, the movie was also known for spawning the summer's happiest song on the radio, Happy by Pharrell Williams, which also netted an Oscar nomination for Best Song. Third up was Ernest and Celestine, a French movie about a bear and a mouse who become unlikely friends. While the movie wasn't really able to break out in the American box office charts, those who saw it were treated to what I can confidently say is one of the most charming family films you will see in your life, and that quality was able to overcome the film's popularity shortcomings in the US. Disney was also in the race again with Frozen, their long-delayed and repeatedly cancelled production of The Snow Queen. Originally stuck in development hell for years, when Frozen was finally released to the public, it was a box office sensation, with critics and audiences universally loving the story, the characters, and the soundtrack was one of the studio's most memorable collection of songs in many years. They also had a breakout hit with the song Let It Go, which also received an Oscar nomination for Best Song. Disney had yet to win this award, and they likely had their best chance yet. Unfortunately for them, an old master was going to give them a challenge. The final nomination was for The Wind Rises from Studio Ghibli and master director Hayao Miyazaki. The film told the story of a real-life airplane builder who wanted to make planes that would make people happy, but ended up designing planes for the Japanese to use in World War II. The first time Miyazaki tackled a true-life story, the film was widely acclaimed as being one of the director's most mature and thoughtful films, made all the more contemplative because the master was retiring, and this would be his final movie. Would the Academy really pass up on giving Miyazaki a trophy for his final work, especially when it was so good? The race, once again, was on. The show opened with Ellen DeGeneres doing her opening monologue, using the opportunity to assure the world that, despite the fact that it was raining in LA, everyone there was fine. The skit ran for almost 10 minutes and was 100 times better than what James Franco and Anne Hathaway did 2 years prior. Speaking of Hathaway, having won Best Supporting Actress the previous year for Les Miserables, it was her turn to hand out the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, which went to Jared Leto in The Dallas Buyers Club. This is a win that is looked back on with some controversy, partly because of Leto's own reputation and rumors of secretly being a cult leader. But personally, I thought it was an inspired win, and he was great in the role. Then, Naomi Watts and Samuel L. Jackson came on to give out 2 awards. The first was for Best Costume Design, which went to The Great Gatsby. They stuck around to give the Dallas Buyers Club the Oscar for Best Makeup and Hairstyling, an award that makes a lot of sense if you've seen the movie. Kim Novak and Matthew McConaughey were brought on stage to give out the awards for the animated categories. They first presented the Oscar for Best Animated Short, which went to Mr. Hublot, despite a lot of momentum suggesting that the Mickey Mouse short, Get a Horse, would win Mickey his first competitive Oscar. Then it was time to hand out the award for Best Animated Feature.
You want to say it?
I'd like to try
And
it.
the Oscar goes to?
Oh, are you ready? Frozen!
And after years of sitting in the seats, Disney was finally able to claim an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. It was certainly a night to celebrate for the house Mickey built, but once the award was given out, it was now time to ask the question we always try to answer in this series. What was it about Frozen that gave it the edge for the win? Here are the 6 most likely reasons it won. Number 1, Disney's overdue narrative. After years of getting nominations, there was a sense that it was time to give Disney an Academy Award of its own. Yes, Pixar had won several statues by now, and Disney had distributed Spirited Away, yet Walt Disney Feature Animation, the studio that made Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, Tarzan, Mulan, and so many other classics had yet to win the award. Granted, their films had not been as strong as their competitors, but it was embarrassing that the pioneers of animation America had yet to officially win in this category. The Academy was looking to give Mickey a gold statue, and for additional reasons, Frozen was the right film to do it with. Number 2, massive box office. Box office can really help sway voters in this category because it usually means a bunch of voters took their kids and grandkids to see the movie. In the case of Frozen, the box office was massive and the movie became one of Disney's most profitable films ever, even nipping at the heels of the huge success of The Lion King. With that kind of box office, it was pretty obvious that voters had seen the film. And it wasn't just the box office that was huge. Number 3, Let It Go was everywhere. While the soundtrack to Frozen was considered a winner all around, nothing could have prepared the world for Let It Go. Like Hakuna Matata and When You Wish Upon a Star, Let It Go had a magic about it that made it an instant classic. To be frank, this song was everywhere. It was in malls, stores, obviously the Disney theme parks, and even LGBT pride parades. This song touched a nerve that few songs wish they could, and it should be noted that it also won the Academy Award for Best Song later that night. This is the kind of song that is so good, it inspires people to watch the movie it came from, and that's exactly what a lot of voters did. Number 4. Competition wasn't seen by as many voters. It couldn't be denied that the other nominees were not as widely seen as Frozen. Yes, while Despicable Me 2 was certainly a huge box office hit that the voters saw, compared to Frozen, it had no chance at winning. But many of the other nominees had minimal impact at the box office, with 2 of the nominees not even cracking 1 million in ticket sales. It was just one of those years where the popular film so thoroughly overshadowed the rest of the competition that it almost wasn't fair. Granted, one of those underseen films was from another acclaimed director who overcame his movie not being seen in theaters much the last time around, but it also leads us to number 5, Hayao Miyazaki had already won. Aside from The Wind Rises being a much more difficult film to embrace by audiences, Hayao Miyazaki had already won a competitive Oscar before. Sure, it was his, at the time, final film, but it's very hard to win a second Academy Award in general. And when up against a monster film like Frozen, the Academy probably didn't feel the need to give Miyazaki a second Oscar for a movie that was much less embraced this time around. Which brings us to the final reason. Number 6, Frozen left an instant cultural footprint. This is likely the reason Frozen won. It was too big to ignore. Now, granted, if it had been big and average, it would have had a huge advantage anyway. But being big and being considered great at the same time, well, there was no way it couldn't win. To not award Frozen would be considered nothing less than award malpractice. And yeah, several years after the fact, there are people who are analyzing this win and questioning if it truly deserved all the praise it got. Folks, I was there, and trust me when I say the praise was no fluke. It really was that great. And the only thing that is tainting its legacy is the continued sequels and 30-minute shorts that precede certain Pixar movies, as well as Disney continuing to milk it in a way that takes resources away from potentially new projects. But it really was something great and unique at the time, and despite Kim Novak acting surprised when she opened the envelope, there was little question going into the night that this was Disney's award to lose. And with Disney finally winning this award in a big way, it was time to look at the next year. And the next year would certainly be unpredictable. Disney would be back with their first animated Marvel project, Laika would introduce the world to a bunch of box trolls, a Night Fury dragon would circle around for seconds, another Irish film would cast its spell, and Studio Ghibli's other founding director would release his first film in many years. I'll see you all next time.
Hey, you made it to the end. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Just a few more things. First of all, the names that you see on the screen, these are our Patreon and YouTube member supporters. And I thank each and every one of them. Their support helps me make exclusive videos for Patreon and YouTube members, as well as keep the channel running. And of course, is just of huge kindness to me. Also, don't forget to check out the iCritic-led podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, Deezer, whatever podcasting service you listen to. It is there. We definitely want to see you there. And hey, there's also other videos that you can check out. So, check out these other channels, these other videos, especially that one. I think that's a really good one.